Hello and welcome back to another episode of FTB Sky Factory 2.5. My name is Twin Minds, and today we're going to get into some heavier stuff, namely Draconic Evolution, because that is one of the big stumbling blocks on my way to finishing this pack. But first, I want to check at the book and see if there's anything that we can finish off here. So 10,000 RF per tick is being well done by that turbine, like so. And this is the actively cooled turbine. I have not done the maximum size reactor. That is ridiculously big. I'm not ready to do that anytime soon, so that's going to stay unchecked for quite some time. As for the rest of this, I'm pretty sure I've done the rest of the beginnings. One thing I haven't done is hatch a dragon egg and train it, and I'm not entirely sure why or how. So I'm going to leave that for now. I've done it before in Test World, but I still don't really know what to do with it, so I'm just going to leave that as it is for now. 100k RF per tick is actually not too far off. All I really need is 3 more turbines, and I'm well over that mark. I'm just not ready to build more just yet. I think I have all the materials, just don't really need it right now. I will, actually, if I decide to go with this one here, the Ender Quarry, because that thing burns energy like mad, so I might need more turbines before I get that going. Alright, rest of this stuff is not stuff I have done yet. This is the Draconic Evolution. However, most of these things are the tools that I won't be building right off the bat. This one I want to take care of, the Charm of Dislocation. That's actually kind of first on my list. But before we do that, I'll actually leave it right here, because this looks like a good place to start. Before I do any of that, I do want to show the progress that I made in the spare time that I've had. First off, I redecorated slightly here with a nice royal blue carpet. So I thought that looked kind of neat. And then over here, I have a new AE system. I've rebuilt this thing pretty much from the ground up. And as you can see, my controller has expanded in size. This is roughly the max size. It is 7 by 7. The max size of the controller is 7 by 7 in some sort of cuboid fashion. So it has to be a rectangular cubey thing, so this could be a 1 by 7 or whatever. But I left it hollow because I have plenty of sides to work with for channels, and I thought it looked kind of neat. I originally actually had it dead center in here, because these pillars happen to be 7 by 7. So I did have it in the center here, but it just looked a little bit too out of place with the rest of the decoration. So I figured I'd move it in here and have my primary AE pillar in the center. I've got more space for drives all the way around here, so I can expand this system quite a bit before I ever have problems again. I also expanded out my molecular assemblers. I chose not to go with the full pyramid alternating size, where you have each interface touching 6 assemblers. That is the most efficient, but it's hard to make it look decent. So I figured these in this corner would be alright, and still fairly efficient, since each one is touching 4. I don't have all of them filled with patterns yet, but I do have quite a few patterns, like so. So I have a lot of space to work with now, and I can get my auto crafting on a lot faster now. So that's awesome. The only thing I have yet to do, it's actually in my inventory, is expand my actual auto crafting CPUs. So for right now, I actually need to plop one of these down so I can actually auto craft. And then I can get crafting more of these things. So if I do crafting CPU, or crafting storage rather, if I do 8, I guess, for now. It's got to take some time to simulate, but it does say that I don't have nearly enough redstone to do that. So redstone is going to have to be something I'll have to work on at a later time. Oh dear, I didn't realize I was that slim on redstone. I will have to work on that. Probably going to be in the form of seeds. But yeah, for right now, this one little bitty crafting CPU is plenty for most of my needs. Even that recipe of 8 of these things would fit in that CPU if I actually had the stuff to do it. So I don't really need more, but I want a bigger one as well as multiple of them, so I can have multiple crafting recipes going at the same time. But yeah, this is my system. I put the quantum bridge at the top here. Just kind of looks kind of neat. And I figured this is my tech building and this is my magic building, and I kind of wanted them to mirror each other slightly. So I don't quite know what I'm going to do with the roof on this yet, but it's probably going to look similar to that one, just for a nice opposing symmetry there. I might even end up taking these pillars down because they no longer serve much purpose, but we'll see. I haven't quite figured out all the rest of my decorations yet here. So that's that. Now one thing I do need to do, I'll probably do on camera here. Oops, not that one, this one. I'm full, just about. I have been collecting ores from the laser for quite some time here, and I am just shy of full. In fact, I am starting to get full up here. This has quite a bit of space left in the chest, so I don't have to worry about it for a little while here, but I do need to start processing these ores. You know, in fact, I won't do that on camera. I don't really need to. You know how ore processing works. It's going to be basically one of each of these. Not too special. I don't need to worry about optimizing. I don't need to worry about splitting in between sag mills and pulverizers. I don't need to do anything like that. So I might just have one sag mill, one alloy smelter, one going into the other, done and done. So I'll probably just hook that up off camera and let those things process, because it doesn't really need to be done on camera here. But what does need to be done on camera is Draconic Evolution. So let's get back into the network and take a look at that. I have quite a bit of draconium here. I have some dust that I gathered from the end stone sifting setup before I start processing into ingots, and then I've got all the ingots from that as well. And these are in a drawer, so I have the blocks, the ingots, and the nuggets available. So the first thing that you need in Draconic Evolution, if you're not familiar with this mod, by the way, it is kind of intended to be an endgame mod. Kind of to extend the life of the game overall past normal modded. Typically the draconium ore is in the end only, which is why I'm sifting it from end stone, and because of that, most of the things that you can make from it are pretty heavy-duty endgame stuff. Really high damage sword, 20 attack damage, plus it does an additional 10% of whatever the mob health is. So if the mob's got 30 health, it's doing an additional 3 damage. So it's pretty sizable in what the mod can do, even though it's adding fairly few items. I will go into more of what it adds at a later time when I'm ready to use them, but for right now, let's do the tablet, because this tablet teaches us things. Knowledge to the max. So this tablet is quite impressive, and it covers everything that's in the mod. So all of this stuff is what the mod can do. And it's got a particle generator for a pretty heavy-duty reactor, and it also has an energy storage system that looks, frankly, quite awesome. So I'll get into that at some point in the future. But first thing that I wanted is the Charm of Dislocation. It's relatively cheap, and I actually could have done this ages ago. I just totally forgot that I could have done it. Otherwise, I would have had this a long time ago, because it's a really nice tool. Ultimately, it's a portable teleporter. So let's get that built. Oops, I need one of these. So this is the Charm of Dislocation, and it is unbound. Now this one I have never actually used. I think each one of these can be bound to a single point. So if I were to bind it right here, I would come back and be teleported right in front of my ME terminal here. The one that I really want, though, is the Enhanced Charm of Dislocation. But let me check quick, because I do like achievements every once in a while. And the enhanced charm of dislocation is not... It is on here. So I could craft up to that first. But, you know, I don't think I need to. I don't need to worry about that. Ooh, it says I need to get an ingot. And I think it needs to be specifically a smelted ingot. So let's see if I can get that done for the achievement. I need to... I think I need to turn that interface off or else it's going to suck it up. So let's grab that quick and smelt this up. Aw, it didn't work. Ah, well. C'est la vie. So this goes here, and that's all I needed to do. So let's get crafting on that enhanced charm of dislocation, because I really like that thing. Oh, I need to put those recipes back. Let's do that. Those go right in this one. Isn't that handy? I love it. Alright, so enhanced charm of dislocation is here, and it requires the wyvern core, which is made up of a nether star and 4 draconic cores. So let's make the 4 draconic cores. Not cheap, but not too terrible. I also can set this to autocraft, actually. Let's do that, because I'm going to need a lot of these. Draconic core, and let's autocraft the wyvern core as well, even though I have only 1 star left. I don't need to autocraft the rest of those. And then these can go in, how about my first couple assemblers? I do like to spread these out where possible, because this requires some of these, which means this can be crafting in its own assembler, while this one is going, upgrading them. So, I've got my 4 cores, and then I should be able to upgrade it to the wyvern core, and then the enhanced charm of dislocation. So what this does is if you right click, you get a list of your teleportation spots, and it requires fuel. The fuel is actually really easy. It's just ender pearls. And I do believe you just hit add fuel and it just eats up whatever ender pearls you've got. Now this one is a little bit different. This mod pack is configured so that the fuel is worth 1 each. In a previous pack that I played, it was worth a lot, like 32 each or something like that. So 1 stack of pearls lasted me the rest of the game. So I'm going to have to keep an eye on that. So what we can do is, oops, right click here. There we go. Add new, home, and commit. Did that not work? It did work. There we go. So home is now set there. It wasn't showing before, but it did work. And yeah, wherever I happen to be, right click brings me home. Awesome. And I do have to keep an eye on my fuel. I've already used 3 from playing around. So what I can do now is I can set this to my other dimensions and not have to run all the way down here again. See, I can't even hit the darn elevator. I don't have to run down here again and go into here. I can just right click and go to where I want to go. Now right click goes to your default location, like that, or you can shift right click and pick one. And where are we? I think you can just click it. Right click to teleport, there we go. So I could just right click and end up teleporting to whichever one I choose. So if I have the nether here, I can just right click here and go to the nether. So this is my new favorite toy, and that's going to stay there, because I will be using that quite often. In fact, I'm probably going to fill it up a bit more, just so I don't cause some problems. Done. So that'll last me a little while. Alright, so we've got our tablet that teaches us things, and we've got our Charm of Dislocation. So the next thing that I would like to get is... where are we here? No, it's quite a ways down. The Mob Grinder. So the Mob Grinder is Draconic Evolution's version of a Mob Grinder, obviously. It kills mobs and does quite a decent job of it. And it's relatively cheap in RF, I believe. But what it requires is Awakened Draconium. And Awakened Draconium, let's see if we've got an entry on that. See the Dragon Heart page for details. Okay, so it's not going to tell us on this page, it's going to tell us on this page. So this tells us the entire ritual required for getting Awakened Draconium. Ultimately, that Dragon Heart that I got, that was floating in the air when I killed the dragon long ago, is the catalyst for this entire ritual. So while that was floating on, in the air, I could have just done the ritual on the spot, but I didn't have any of the Draconium to do that, so I just picked up the heart, and I can use it later. So ultimately, I can drop the heart on the ground and explode it, and then feed it some materials to give me the Awakened Draconium. So let's get started on that. First off, I need TNT, which I don't have. Let's make one of those. Easy enough. And then I will need a lever to activate it. And then I need 16 of these cores. Let's make that. Okay. And then I need 4 blocks of Draconium. Good, I didn't use all that much. 4 blocks of Draconium. And I think that just about does it. Let's see. So 4 to 16 Draconic cores on the ground near the heart. So that is 4 cores per block of Draconium that you're going to convert. That's the reason for that. Okay, so the next thing is that these Draconium blocks have to be charged, which is being handled by my wireless charger, but I'm going to actually run down and put them directly in because it's a lot faster in here. It's still going to take quite some time and apparently all of my energy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the laser because I'm full on ores anyway. And that is still just burning power hard. Oh, good lordy. So apparently, the energy on this thing is jacked up full speed. Because in the previous pack that I played with, this was not that many zeros. That's a lot of bloody zeros. So that is 100 million RF, I believe. Is that enough zeros? Yeah, that's 100 million RF. So one of these blocks is more energy than I have in total. So what I'm going to have to do is let this thing sit and cook for quite some time and then come back when that's done. While that's going, I am going to get a few more things prepared for the next steps of my plan, so I'll come back and be ready to go. So I will see you in a bit. Alright, that took a while, but I do have my 4 charged Draconian blocks. There we go, there's the English. And I'm just about ready to go, so you ready to do this? Because I sure am. Let's do this for now. Alright, so I took some time to not teleport. I took some time to make up some more locations, so you can kind of see the power of this thing. I can just pop to the nether, the end, etc. I also made one all the way over from my wither cage, so I don't have to fly over here anymore. Like so. Alright, I'm going to light the place up just a little bit, even though my torches are probably going to get exploded soon enough here. Alright, so the heart gets dropped down. Oops, I need to turn off my magnet. Okay, so the heart gets dropped down and exploded. So I'm going to get ready to fly away here. Alright, so now it's flowing. And these draconic cores get dropped in. Should suck them in soon enough here. Hopefully it's not being impeded by the block that it's directly above. It's not doing the thing. Interesting. I'm going to have to figure out what's going on with that. Because it's supposed to have sucked all those cores in, and then I can place down the blocks. But it just keeps on spinning faster and faster. Hopefully that means it's not going to explode on me. We'll see. Also, it would have ended by now if it were doing something else. Let's see what's going on. Oops. I need the heart. 4 to 16 cores on the ground near the activated heart, which I did. A few seconds after its initial activation, it will draw all nearby items towards it. It hasn't done that. I am curious. Uh-oh, I broke it. I wonder if these are causing problems. Let's try that. Well, they were definitely causing the problem, because it did finally finish its spinning doom. So let me teleport back home and grab another TNT and try that again. It looks like I need another lever. And let's get the things ready to drop. Okay. Wither cage. Alright, let's try that again with hopefully less weirdness this time. I'll put it out a little bit. Let's see, right about there perhaps. Let's go. Yeah, that looks like a good spot. Let's blow it up. And then throw the cores down. There we go. Now you can see the particles are traveling into those things. I go ahead and throw my magnet on now, just in case things go flying. Good. Now I've got my awakened Draconic blocks. Wonderful. I have to rebuild my wither cage at some point here. So, now that I have my awakened Draconic blocks, I can do stuff with them. Let's put these in the network in ingot form. Now, let's make the thing that I wanted to make. The mob grinder. So, the mob grinder requires a generator, which requires a draconic core. And it requires a wyvern core, which requires another star. Oops. Which I do have my nether star. I wasn't quite sure if I remembered killing one or not. So let's get the cores built. So we need 5 of these. And then we need the 1 wyvern core and 3 diamond swords. And we need the generator, which is a furnace. Now this is Draconic Evolution's own form of a generator, which does just like most other generators do. It burns coal and other furnace fuels to make power. I don't think it makes much more than any of the others. So for being such an end game mod, this is a fairly early game item if you need to build it, but it still does require the Draconium. So I might test out to see how much power it actually generates at some point, but I'm not too worried about it just yet. So let's make this. And I should have all I need for that. I did not make the generator, so I should probably do that. What am I missing? I'm missing nether brick, which means I need to smelt up some netherrack. Okay. You know, that whole T thing doesn't work. T is an inventory tweaks key that when you hit T over an item that you have in nearby chests, it will take you out of your current inventory and highlight those chests to tell you where they're located, which is great, except for when it stops me from typing. Actually, I don't need to do that. I have nether essence, which is, let's see, nether brick can be made from, oh, there's no nether essence recipe for it, so I will have to smelt them up. Alright. And if I were smart, I would teach my system that recipe, but I will do that later. There's the generator. And there is the mob grinder. Alright, so the reason I wanted this is for this purpose. So I'm not actually going to build much of this on camera because I've built a similar setup before, but ultimately I'm going to set up a farm that harvests the wither essence, which can make wither skulls. So I'm going to do it very similar to the farm that I've already got up in the last millennium, but it's going to be its own separate farm specifically for this, and specifically for the purpose of soul sand, which is made out of nether essence. And I believe it's that pattern, yes. So I will need a crafter for that pattern rather than the compactor. So I will have one crafter making this recipe, as well as a wither skull recipe, so I have enough. I believe I can make it set to craft on demand, so I'm not just full all of the time of these things, because I would like to have my nether essence available for other purposes. If I can't set it up that way, then I might just do a separate farm for that altogether. But ultimately, this is what my purpose is, to start generating the wither and getting it auto-killed. So let me make another wither skull here. And I need to provide this thing power, which means I need a tesseract, which I do not have currently. Well, that's going to be a challenge. That might be the next episode then, is teaching my network how to make tesseracts. But for right now, not in there. I have them elsewhere. So let me grab some energy cells that I've got laying around here. This will just be a very temporary setup. And I need to rebuild this briefly. Alright, this needs to come back down. So, the mob grinder, let's see if we have a correct face for this thing. I believe it's that face, but let's find out. Actually, I think it's this face, because that's the swordy face. Let's see if it can rotate. Yeah, there we go. There's some particles. So that tells me that A, I can't shift right click to pick it up, and B, I can't rotate it. So I'm going to break it and place it this direction. There we go. So how much power is this thing using? Quite a bit. It's not too terrible, though. So if I do want to test, because what I'm testing here is to see if a vacuum chest there-ish can avoid being exploded. If it can avoid being exploded, then it can stay right there, and this setup is pretty close to done. All I have to do is have a tesseract here instead. If this block does not prevent this from being exploded, then I'll have to do a whole different setup altogether. But let's see how this thing goes. I'm going to stand by with my trusty tools to kill it manually if I have to. Because I might. This mob grinder does not blow up, so I don't have to rebuild this. I will probably lose this energy cell. That's fine. I don't need it anyway. And I might lose this vacuum chest, so we'll see what happens. And almost there. Kerboom! So, it got auto-killed, but it did blow up that, that vacuum chest. So, what I'm going to need to do then is I'm going to need to set up a different method of item collection here other than that vacuum chest. So, I will do some of that off camera, and then I'll come back and show you what I've come up with. One thing that I'm going to need to do, and it's going to take some fiddling, because I'm not quite sure exactly how I can place it just yet. I'm going to need to build this thing up, probably about 15-20 blocks or so, and then have some auto item placers up at the top to build the wither automatically, where he can then drop down and explode himself without taking out those item placers up there and get himself killed. So I'm going to have to do some fiddling to try to figure out what a good build is, and then I will come back next episode with an auto wither killer. So I'm going to cut this episode off here. I know the last episode was well over an hour long, and I'm going to try to avoid that where possible, but, you know, if I get excited, I'll just keep on going. But I will come back next episode with some interesting changes afoot here. So until then, see ya.